Dave, this is a recap and summary of things from our last session at the course yesterday. And so, give me a moment. This is off of Wednesday. Wednesday 4/27. Excuse me. So Wednesday 4/27, number one priority is still the driver. We use the mid iron, which could be a 7 or an 8. You can maybe hit a 6, something with a little less loft. When we talked about why we use this versus a wedge, the less loft, lower loft equals more curve. So higher loft equals less curve. So we're starting to learn a little bit about the dynamics of the face. And so why is this important? Because more curve face will equal less pull and push shots, which means pull shots is that start to the left on a more direct line, and push shots starting to the right. And what that means in this context here, it doesn't mean it starts left or starts right. It means the start direction is less present than the curve. So you'll pull it and push it just as much as the lower ones if the face is closed or open or left or right, but the presentness of the curve will be less. So when we see it, it's going to curve far more when the face is off on the direction. When we look at the higher loft, so we'll say something like a pitching wedge, maybe even 9 iron to sand wedge to lob wedge, right? Maybe a 9 iron, right? Just kind of depends. 8 iron here would kind of be the question as well. It's kind of right in the middle. 8, 9 is right in the middle. So when it's left's curve, when the face, then it will equal more pull. That's starting left and staying left and push. Because the ball's not curving, so the ball might start left, and then it's going to stay left on a more direct line. All right, if it starts right, then it's going to stay right on a more direct line. All right, and I'm going to kind of map this out just so you can see what I'm talking about here. That means if our target is here and your ball is here, I am going to use purple for the lower lofted clubs, and we'll use green for the higher lofted clubs. So what that means is if I'm hitting I'm going to draw, this would be your target line right here. So if that's perfectly straight, what this means is with your lower lofted clubs, like your 7, 6, and above, maybe a little bit of 8, when we see the ball start off this way, we're going to see it starting here, and then it's going to break a lot more. So if it starts to the right, you're going to see the ball break a lot more. Right, this is with the irons as well, but that's why, driver, fairway woods are, the same things as well. So as you get lower and loft, this is what you see more of. When you start to see the higher lofted clubs, like your wedges, you might see them start off on the same line, but because they don't bend, it'll be more direct. Like this. So even though they're the same face direction, well, you can put a metric on something like this where you say, let's just say this is 3 degrees left, and this would be, 3 degrees right. My drawing is a little off from scale, but just to show you kind of what we're seeing right here, right? And when we look at it like this would be 3 left, 3 right, swing direction, all that kind of stuff, just saying that's the constant, right? This is what it would look like. So it would be more or less misleading when we're trying to like bend the ball and curve the ball with the lower lofted clubs versus the higher lofted clubs. Lower lofted clubs would be amazing because it's not curving to work on the start direction because it's going to curve less. So this would be like my illustration just to help you understand, why we're doing when we warm up and we're working on curve and working on like the control, like this is why. And we're working with the start direction on top of that because we still want the ball to bend. So if we work on the start direction to curve it to the line that we were talking about, and we use the lower stuff, it's going to hang out to the right a lot more. And when you make the thing curve, and let's say you hook a wedge, right, the amount the face needs to be close to make the wedge bend is exaggerated. Not exaggerated. It is far greater than that of like a 7-iron or 6-iron. So when you do the same type of motion in closing the club face, you're going to face be left with a longer iron or a flatter or less lofted iron, then it'll hook and curve left or right a lot more, right? So we stick with that when we're working on the curve. So that is, number one, and as it comes into this, so where outcome is getting into the ball control as we're main goal is to be at, so outcomes to be 255 to 60 yards plus in position, we will call position 90% or greater, meaning we have direct access to the green where we're not going under trees, sideways, and stuff like that. Courses around here, the rough is not difficult, so we don't get penalized too much. And to get 145 yards and in for the average coming into approach shots. So this is the clarity that we're looking at for like outcome. And so as we have outcome now, we're bringing it into more narrow into what we are, like the tactical things that we're doing. So just kind of always recapping from where we're at is first thing we did was we swing circular, meaning so if the ball is here, that is the target line, this is the back line, the club is striking the ball from there, right? And then this would be the circular pattern. So that is like we swing circular. 2 is the face controls the start direction. So the face controls the start direction, and we're wanting to win the start direction because the swing direction 3 is the ratio between relationship would be a better word. the club face and swing direction. Our analogy and picture is going to equal the wall, right? So we're always looking at how the wall is tilted. So think about how the wall is tilted. So I'm going to then draw this out just so you can see it here in the same model of, if we have the ball here, and that is our target line and your back line here, we're going to say our, let's see, swing direction is going to be coming from here, which then will get the ball. Let me draw that a little cleaner. This is not to scale. I'm going to just make it so it looks cleaner for you. Instead of drawing a curve, I'm going to draw a straight line, and we know the club does not come in a straight line, but I'm going to draw it straight just so you can see the difference. So it's a little more clear than the arc. So just know, like, this is kind of what it looks like, where it's more of an arc, but I'm going to draw it as a direct line so you can see it. So this would be red is the swing direction, and then we're going to put in blue is the face direction. So as it looks like this, then your club face will be, pointing like this, and that is where the wall is tilted in here to the left. So that's the gap. So the red is the swing direction, the face is the club path. Sorry, the red is the swing direction, the blue is the club path, or the club face direction. Jeez, I am losing losing my brains right now. So red is the swing direction, blue is the face direction. So as we're swinging it to the right, in that rightward direction, the face is left of the path. That is what is getting it to curve to the left. So that is the relationship that we're looking to do, and that is how we're getting it to curve. All right, so this is everything, synthesized in like what we've been doing. And now the fourth thing as we go in was speed of the club, right? And this will equal our distance, right? Speed is distance potential. So that is one of the core things that we're starting to move into as we, had our conversation. The one thing of how to increase speed is our mindset equals our thermostat, internal thermostat, right? And so, by telling ourselves to swing it faster, to hit it harder, right, we will then do that, right? Because we have beliefs and rules that is structured inside of that anchor into our nervous system to get us to do certain things, right? So beliefs would be like, I'm already swinging it hard. I'm swinging it pretty hard, right? I'm swinging it as hard as I can, right? A rule would be like, I'm not supposed to lose my balance. I'm not supposed to get out of control. I'm not supposed to swing out of my shoes, right? So belief and rule structures, they're not the same thing, but they kind of tie into each other, right? So sometimes our rules will affect our belief, and sometimes it's just a belief that our rule will not align with, right? So there's multiple dynamics in that space that, we can definitely get into in another time as well. But just know we have beliefs of, like, just swing harder, I can do this, like, right, hit it like I would hit a hockey puck as hard as I can, big slap shot, like massive power, right? And so creating these belief structures, right? Beliefs also tie into like our CSCs, right? It's not saying like, hey, I'm going to have this belief of swinging this thing 150 miles an hour, right? Because then physically you cannot, right? You have to then go work out and get stronger, get mobility, get all the other things, then you can, right? So not that you cannot, that it is not where you're at right now. You would have to go get a different skill set to get there. So understanding like the beliefs, and then what are rules that are holding your belief back, right? So like we had shared that, after hitting like 4 or 5 balls, you're like, oh, you're breathing hard, and you're like, who, like that sense there is like, man, I did that after like 4 shots, and I just hit 25 drives before that, and I didn't breathe hard at all, right? So those are like beliefs. So when we go back even into, we've been even hitting, so let's say driver was for like 20 minutes, right? And inside that 20 minutes, right, we maxed out at like 82 to 3 miles per hour. And then the final, 5 to 7 minutes, by saying, let me swing this, 2 minutes after, we got to 90, I think it was like 93 to 4 miles per hour. So it was like 10, this would be a plus 10 to 11 gain, right? So huge gain. Right, and we can look at, let's just see. Right, so that would be like a 13% gain in 2 minutes, right? Gaining 10 to 11 miles an hour. 2 minutes, just because we shifted your belief and then said, I'm going to hit this thing harder. And you did. Right, and then in the next, 5 to 10 minutes, then we added a mechanic, or like a strategy. And this is the how. So this goes into a little bit of form, getting yourself to turn a little bit more rotation, and leveraging other things. And then you could hit, then it did never went below 90. Well, take that back. You had 89.5. So it never went below 89.5 after you're swinging at 82 to 83. Right? And it just wasn't possible for you to be below 89.5 when you just said, I'm going to swing it firm, and as high as 95.4, I think it was. So getting up there, might even be 96, but 95 point something, I think it was. So we're gaining a ton, and you just added a little bit. So when you look at that, now all of a sudden, right, it is not 10 to 11. Now you're looking at 12 per hour. But the key here was not swinging hard like you did there. So you increased your threshold, right? When we have this threshold that we have, and this is physical threshold limited by a belief, right? So there are physical thresholds that are just physical thresholds, but this is your physical threshold limited by a belief. So the moment you got yourself and said, like, we're going to say boom, and you went like bam, 95, right? And it might even 90s. And then you said, oh, so now your belief shifted to, oh, I can do this. So, and it was like, just gotta swing hard and out of control. So that was your belief structure there. And so we set this new threshold. Inside of this threshold, we hit another boom. And when we hit the 95 again, or let's just say this one was, when we hit the 94, 95, inside the same thing, we added a technique. This is coming from right here. This one is right there. That one was, now it's not swinging hard. That was a new belief. And what that did is like, man, I'm swinging way easier than I ever did, which now brought your lower threshold to now be 89, and it was like, smooth it out. So now that belief is I can smooth it out 89. I can smooth it out at an 89, whereas in the beginning, it was like out of my shoes to get 89, right? So like this session here, and what I want to showcase to you, like the power of like your belief system, right? And again, when we look at this is far different than mental game, right? It is mental game, but it's not mental game in the scope that we read it in books. And we get like techniques like this is like core disruption of your entire nervous system. They get you to do this stuff. That's why it's so quickly. And that's why it will stick, because you're not having it being based on like a tactic or a tool that works sometimes, right? It is getting yourself to truly believe that like, man, I can do this and I can get there. Like, and these are within your limits. And you know, the reason why I can do this is because I do this all the time, right? I can tell and I can see certain things, right? And I understand it enough, right? And when you look at hockey, you're able to see the same thing in players that you see, right? Because of how much experience that you have in that area, right? So that's why I can see it so much. And I also know for a fact that just in human behavior, like we're never tapping out thresholds ever, right? And there's always another gear that we can always hit. Right, it's funny, like one of our coaches and like one of our like core principles for us is there's always another gear. And it's funny because we we share this with Charlotte, right? And we anchor this into her, right? So there's things that she says, like we teach her these principles and she doesn't quite understand it, but we tie in behaviors for her of what low gear, of what like another gear is, because how we find certain things is like we go to low gear, right? Low gear is, and I'll share that with you another time, but low gear is like the low threshold. Think of like a 4-wheel drive truck. You throw the thing in low gear and then you're just moving forward just to break down walls and break down beliefs and continue to move forward, right? So, you know, there's always another gear. And, you know, even with Charlotte, like we train her in just the sayings, and we anchor in like when she does things around it, right? And it's the same thing that, you know, I'll do with you. That's why it's so repetitive. And I'm not just telling you how to think. It's how you're thinking and tying it into an action and a belief and a core structure, right? And so, you know, this is kind of how it is. Like I go, Charlotte, like there's always, and she would say another gear. There's always, and then she would say another gear, and then I'd be low, and she would be gear, low gear, always another gear, right? And these are things that is just, these are core principles that we live by and that we coach her on and we coach everybody on. So how this associates in what we're doing here, share another analogy so you can tie it in. Like with Charlotte, like I share this with other people, and it's like, man, that's crazy. Like, how do you, like, people don't understand that. I'm like, they don't, but it's repetition. Because again, key, like when I look at how would you train this into a 4-year-old, actually she was 3 at the time when we started. One is consistency, right? For us, that's every single day. 2 would be language, right? So language is in the consistency is hearing it every single day. Low gear. Like I get her when she's sleeping and mumbling stuff, and I'm like, Charlotte, low, and then she in her sleep she's saying gear, and then like there's always, she's like, another gear. I'm like, who are you? I'm a champion. Who are you? I'm a leader. Like in her sleep, like, and I do this. I used to do it every single day. Now I do it several times a week. But like that's like the repetition in the language. Even though at 3 years old, like she doesn't know what it means, but the language comes in where it's anchored into like her nervous system and hearing the words and knowing. Because third is the actions and what we need to tie it into. So how this happens. So now she knows like there's always another gear. There's always another gear. Low gear. I am a champion. I'm a leader. Right. I am a shieldman. All of these things. And so when she's tired, right, like other things like micro, she says goals, micro goals, right? There's other micro goals, right? So, you know, when she's like tired, I need uppy, can you carry me, right? I said, let's just get to that pole right there first. Let's get to that pole, right? And then I'll pick you up from there. Just make it to that pole right there. It's like that pole right there is a micro, and then she's like, goal. I say micro, goal. It's like, yes, you're tired. I know you're tired. This is when we hit low. And she's like, gear, low gear. Like you can hit this gear. Because there's always, and then she's like, another gear. So inside of her belief structure that I'm tired, I want to get picked up, I'm whatever, it's like I'm setting the micro goal for her. Get it to that pole right there. Get it to that crack in the road. Get it to that sign, and I'll pick you up. And then in her whole belief system of like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. I just want to get picked up. It's like right there. That's the micro goal, right? You can do this. Get into low gear, right? There's always another gear, right? And that is the compounding of like reshaping beliefs. And I spend a lot of time here because more than the technical things, this is how things stick. This is how things rapidly change. So when you go out tomorrow, when you go out next week, when you go out forever, it's always going to be a smooth 89 until it's a smooth 95. Until it's a smooth 100, right? Until it's a smooth 105, right? Wherever that threshold is that you want to set, but it's the same thing that we're banging in and out, right? It's always the same thing, right? So this repetitious thing here is the pattern, right? Annual, right? This is about mastery. This is about going super, super deep into the vertical lane. That's why we're still on like swing is circular. You'll never hear me not remind you that the swing is circular. Always, because like that's just a core thing that just has to be ingrained. Like your belief is always gonna be like swing circular, right? So anytime any part of the swing goes like, well, I gotta swing it straighter, or I gotta take it back straight, or whatever it is, like it's ruptured, like it's circular, not straight. It's circular, not straight, right? Like that's how quick it needs to go into like, man, it went left, like that's a face. It went left, it's the face. It went right, oh, it's the face, right? Did it start left or start right, right? What was it? Oh, it was the face. Or then it was like, man, this curve. Oh, that's the face, the path. Like the ball was tilted left, the ball was tilted right, right? And it has to jump into this thing, right? So the scale of mastery and understanding all of this stuff is such core principles, because the default is like, ooh, my hands felt like this. The default is like, ooh, do I take it back this way or this way? Do I get it like this at the top? Do I feel this at the bottom? It has to be reversed. And they be like swings in a circular thing. Oh, that thing went like hard. That thing hooked left. Okay, so did it start left or not? Oh, got it. Hard left, wall tilted extremely to the left. Great. Okay, so was it more the face or the path? Because it's both of it. Which one was more present? Oh, that thing started way left. Oh, awesome. That thing was the face then. So get the face here, work the path. Right? So like that's the deconstruction of like how to go. And if you hear the language around this, like nothing went into the swing. Because now when we get to a place like, I know it's in a circular thing, right? Right, that thing went hard left. The thing started like 20-yard left and then bent off the earth. So now I know, okay, face was like way left. Get the face pointed like at the target line, and then get the swing direction to go right of that. So at least it starts closer to the line, bends to the left. Or maybe get the face, 5 yards right of the target and get the swing direction further to the right, right? We're breaking down patterns in how we think in that manner. And now we can say like, okay, my next step, right? Do I have to take it back a certain way, or do I have to deliver it on the way down a certain way? How do I get to that, right? And we start to break it backwards. The swing is always the last thing, right? And when we work this pattern this way, like it would be like super quick, like a snap, where like you hit a hard left shot and you might go straight to like, okay, that means my swing did this, but it's only because you have a mastery understanding of all the things above it, which gives you that certainty, like my swing did this, so it's this part of my swing. And it becomes so automatic that your brain just processes that way. The same way that when you're teaching me like how to handle the puck and like how you try to lift it up versus your wrist, like it just comes to you and you can tell me the thing of what you see and what happens and how you process it, juggles down that ladder. Like if you look at the screen here, it goes like this, right? Super quickly, right? To diagnose all of the things, to get like, this is what it is, but it happens at such a rapid pattern and quickness that you just come up with the answer. And when it's things that are new, our brain doesn't do it that way. It sticks to the surface of like, oh, let me just get it like this, turn it like this. Like, so we're learning new things. Like, I got to turn more, right? So you might be working, I got to turn more. But when we start associating, oh, I don't have power because I didn't turn more, right? That's what happens. It's not, I don't have power and speed because I didn't turn more. It's like, I didn't have power and speed because the club didn't move fast enough, right? And it would be like, okay, why didn't it move fast enough? Then you start to look, okay, so what constitutes swinging it faster, right? Is it me swinging it harder, swinging it quicker, tying it into like hitting it hard, creating an impact, whatever that is, like what gets it going faster? And then it's moving back into the movements, right? And so forth. So, again, this is just recapping not just what we did, but like anchoring in like how to think, how to break it down, and taking like this process that you're seeing here, and this is how we look at everything. And again, I spend a little bit of time here, right? But it's every single process, every single thing that you do, you start to look at in the same way, and then it comes super, super quick. So Dave, that is a wrap for this here. Again, on this front end of what we're doing, like I'm going to give you like a ton of stuff just to get it out there so you can hear it more as we kind of taper towards the back end. Like later in our season, it'll be like little less of this because it's going to be more touch points, more quick access, like then do this because of that. But in the beginning, like this is the arduous stuff that we're doing arduous, like this, like recordings that I'm recording for you, like it's arduous, right? Until it's not. So as much as you're on this journey of like arduous work and hitting the things and thinking about it and restructuring, I am with you in this arduous work as I am teaching and coaching you along this journey. So it is an absolute pleasure and such a great time. So thank you, Dave, and we'll talk soon.